So this is our DJI S900. We just ordered the new Lightbridge 2 system to use on it, but realized that after hooking it up there is an issue. So the S900 that we have is using the A2 flight controller, and the Lightbridge unit needs to be powered by a gimbal cable. So this is the cable that came that you can plug into the gimbal to power the Lightbridge 2, but we are not using a gimbal. We're simply using a GoPro for just first-person view, and using this rig to actually do 360-degree shooting, so we don't need a gimbal. So the question is, how do we power this Lightbridge unit then if we don't have a gimbal? How do we get the power to it? Well, I contacted the DJI support, and they said that you have to modify this cable. Basically, you have to cut it and connect it to a power source so that you can power the Lightbridge system. And this end of the cable plugs into the CAN bus port. Here we can see that we've got the CAN hub here at the top, and that's where it would plug in to get the telemetry information. So I was a little bit hesitant about cutting this cord, obviously, because this obviously will void the warranty by doing this modification, and I'm not against doing something myself, but I want to make sure I do it right the first time, because the Lightbridge system only accepts 12 volts. So 9 to 12 volts is its operating voltage. And on this particular rig, we're using a big 6S battery, 22 volt battery. And so if I just plugged that into the Lightbridge, it would instantly fry it. So you have to do a little bit of finagling to get this to work. And luckily I found someone online that was able to help me out and help me figure this out. And so I wanted to run you through how to get this to work, because I couldn't find very much information online and thought that having a tutorial would probably be helpful. I should also mention that if you're using the A3 flight controller, this cable that comes with the Lightbridge 2 system, it's a D-bus cable, this will just plug right into your A3 flight controller and into the Lightbridge, and it will power it. So if you're flying an A3, you're in luck. If you have an A2, you have to do some do-it-yourself modification. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So there are a few things that you need to do this modification to this cord. Because the Lightbridge takes 12 volts and we'll be using a 6S battery, we need something to basically step down the voltage so that we don't fry this thing. So what you can do, I've bought this voltage regulator. If you can see it, I'll put a picture up of what it looks like. But basically what this will do is it will step down the voltage from the 6S battery, and we'll make it so that we can use it with the Lightbridge without burning it. I've also got some XT60 connectors here, and this is to allow us to just plug this right into our main power board, and then we'll connect this end to our voltage regulator right there, and then the other end will be connected to the two voltage wires on the gimbal cable. So that's what we're going to put together, and of course we'll test all these voltages before we hook it all up so we don't accidentally fry anything, and let's get going. Okay, so I have all my parts, so now it's time to start taking this apart. So I've got to remove this heat shrink tubing here on this portion of the cable to make sure that I get the correct wires for the voltage. So that would be these two wires right here, according to the place that it plugs in on the Lightbridge unit. It would be negative voltage and then positive voltage, and then the rest of the wires are for the telemetry and for the gimbal and things. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this open. Okay, so I've carefully cut through the wiring heat shrink tubing here, and you can see now clearly which wires are coming from the CAN bus cord and which ones are coming from the gimbal cord. And so it's these two on the end that I'm concerned with right now. Those are the two that are going to be supplying the voltage. So we'll go ahead and take the rest of this off. And so looking at the other side of the cable, this is the side that's going to plug into the Lightbridge. So the voltage will come up into these. So this is the other side. I think it's safe to assume that these two on the end are the voltage, and those three over there are the gimbal ones, knowing that the CAN bus is only coming in on this side. I think that's a safe assumption. We'll obviously test it with a voltage tester to make sure that is where we're getting our voltage through, but I think that is correct based on what we can see on the bottom of the Lightbridge unit here, which is a little tough to see here. Let's see if I can get it in focus. Okay, there you can see it. So you can see we got voltage on the one side, and then we got LHG, negative and positive. Okay, so to remove wires from a connector, I actually learned this from a different YouTube video. It's very easy, but what you do is you basically you see these little tiny tabs right here on the connector. You basically just pry those little tabs up. You got to be careful not to pry them up too much because you can break them. They're obviously pretty fragile, but if you just pry it up just a little bit, you can actually pull the connector right out of where it's seated. So it's very easy, and the great thing about this is you don't have to cut wires, and you can reassemble it if you want. So obviously this isn't the cable that I'm working with. I just am showing you this on a different cable. And if you want to put it back, it's just as easy as slipping it back in, and it clicks in place right inside there. So that's how you remove the pins from a connector. Okay, so I've taken apart the other end of the gimbal cable, and I've removed the positive and negative wires here from this connector, and these are what I'm going to solder onto my board over here. I tied a string around the positive wire because they don't have these marked in any way, and they're obviously not color coded. So that's just reminding me that that's positive and the other one's negative. It's kind of a messy bit of handiwork here underneath the heat shrink tubing, but I'll reheat shrink this when it's all done. These gimbal cables, since I'm not using them, I'm just going to pull them aside and just leave them as is. But yeah, so we're ready to solder these to our board now. Okay, so I've gone ahead and soldered the XT60 connector to my board here, to my voltage regulator. So I've got the positive and the negative on here, and I've just got it sitting on top of the drone right now. I think I'm going to make a little case for it out of this little thing, which is why I've got this just taped to the top while I'm testing here. So right now, when I test the voltage, I'm getting about 19.4 volts coming through this thing right now. So I know coming out of here, out of the XT60, I have 25 volts because I tested that just by sticking the the leads down into the connection there. So it obviously is being regulated a little bit, but I need to turn this little knob here to get it down to 10 volts, which is my target voltage. The Lightbridge unit can take 9 to 12, and so I figured 10 is probably a good voltage to go to. So right now I'm going to adjust this, and we'll try and get it down to 10 volts. Okay, so I've adjusted this down, and it's impossible to do while filming because I'm kind of double-handing this. So if I connect the two leads here, got them connected here. You can see right now I'm at about 10 volts. So 10.2.02. So that looks good. All I did was turn that little screw right there counterclockwise. So I just had my voltage regulator set up, and I just turned that little screw counterclockwise until it was down to 10. And that was it. So I think we're good now. So let's connect this to our other cable then. Okay, so I finished soldering the positive and negative wires, and I've just put some tape over this. I kept the gimbal connector is still under there, and the gimbal wires are still there if I want to use them in the future. But this is connected now, and I connected it to my power source. I should note too, I also put a little tiny bit of hot glue on that screw there, just in case there's any micro vibrations or anything. I don't want the voltage changing all of a sudden on me just because something shakes loose. So anyway, I just tested this. I actually just hooked up my voltage meter to these two leads there. The black one is the positive, and the one next to it's the negative, and I was getting 10 volts through there. So this cable should be ready to go. Alright, so I've just connected it. I can hear the unit powered up, and I see some red lights there. So it looks like we're getting power, and the thing's not smoking or anything, so I think we got this. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up the camera and everything else, and we'll tidy up and we'll try this out. Okay, so I've made this little case for the regulator. Just tore apart that little case that I had. I just cut one of the little boxes out of it. And then cut some slits for the wires. And so I've got it sitting there in the bottom of that. There's a little bit of kind of foam, insulating foam in the bottom. And so I can put this little lid over the top and just zip tie that shut, and then I've got my regulator protected in there. Should have enough heat dissipation. If it doesn't, I'll add some holes. I don't know how hot this thing gets. I don't think it gets very hot, but anyway. So I'll go ahead and mount this inside the drone. Alright, so I've got the unit completely installed now on the drone. You can see the XT60 connectors coming out this side, and they just plug straight into the main power board. You can kind of see through there.
Well, no you can't, it's too dark. Anyway, they're plugging in just to the main board there, and then the out gimbal cable comes out that side and goes kind of around here. I just have it taped to the underside of the frame there, and then the wire comes down and loops around and goes right in to the Lightbridge. So I've tested this a couple times, flown with it twice, and it works great. I liked mounting it this way so that I can easily, just look at the regulator, make sure my connections are correct, or I can easily remove this. This is just a Velcro strap, but I can easily take it out and do anything to it that I need to. But yeah, that is how to get the Lightbridge unit powered with no gimbal, modifying the gimbal cable. Hope this was helpful to somebody.